All right, in today's session, we're actually going to be venturing out of Bro or Zeek for just a little bit here because, we've used Zeek to get us to focus on specific things, specific activities that we've seen in the traffic. And, that's kind of the pattern that we generally would use it in because Zeek allows us to look at a very large amount of traffic, either like we did with PCAPs or in real time because in a later session, we're going to look at how to use Zeek to watch traffic in real time, not just, looking at PCAPs. But what I want to do now is take the information that we've gathered from the Zeek sessions and use that much to now dig into Wireshark and potentially some other tools to see what we can find out based on what we use with Zeek. Remember, we need Zeek to get us to this point so that we can use it. So we're going to start off by opening the same PCAP file. So we're still going to be working with this threat hunting PCAP, the same one that we carved up with Zeek. We just point Wireshark at it and tell it to go. So a couple of things that'll jump right out at us, and you can make note of this later, or make note of it now. We'll visit it in more detail later. Without even doing any filters or anything, you can see that right away in the top here, you see Wireshark showing us that there's a lot of ARP traffic and there's appears to be some duplicate IP addresses detected here. For example, 131, which we know from our instruction document, that PDF, is our potential victim. And .2, we don't really know what that is, but it looks like that both of those have duplicate IPs. It says that this MAC address and this other MAC address here are both using this 131 IP. And this MAC address, as well as this other MAC address here, is also using .2. So what's interesting about that is if you look at 131, the 131 ARP packet here, it's saying that this MAC address is using that IP address. But that same MAC address is down here as being reported as using the .2 address as well. Now, that generally indicates to me ARP poisoning or something along those lines. And we'll talk about that a little bit later. But what I want to do is get right into showing you some interesting filters, or some, I won't even say interesting, but some mandatory filters that you need to get comfortable using with Wireshark. Now, in Zeek, we discovered two things. First of all, our instructions told us that 131 was our victim. And it told us that, we need to try to find out who the potential attacker was. Well, if you go back and look at the previous videos where we were digging into Zeek, specifically the last video with Zeek, you will see that 177 appeared to be doing the most interesting stuff. So let's start by creating a filter to show us traffic between 131 and 177. And the way that we do that is like so. And then we want to say also 177, so traffic between those two. What I'm going to do is just do equal on both sides. And by entering that filter, putting that filter in and hitting enter, what it does is it takes away all traffic except for traffic that meets the criteria of being from or to either one of these IP addresses. And what that does for us is it gives us now a little bit more focus. It cut out a lot of traffic, and we can just kind of quickly take a glance and see what's been going on between 177 and 131. Well, we can see right away there's a ping which got redirected, and then there's ping reply. So it looks like some basic discovery maybe going on there, ping scanning or something to see if the target's there. We can see where the pings were all redirected. So, that means proxy, man in the middle, ARP spoofing, something. And remember, we already saw something in the beginning that made us think that potentially there might be some ARP spoofing going on. But as we drill down and look at the rest of the traffic, we get past the ICMP redirects, we can see that there's clearly a three-way handshake between 131 and 177. And what's interesting about that is 131 initiated a handshake. So our victim actually connected to 177, which apparently is our attacker here. And it connected to port 80 because we can see a SYN, ACK, and an ACK there. So that's an actual connection. And then immediately after that, it did a get, and it got something down. And then what happened after that? Well, now there's a closing down of that original session because there's our fin-act combo to close it. But right around the same time, there appears to be a new connection to port 8080. And again, it's our victim 131 connecting to 177 on port 8080 as the original port 80 connections being torn down here with the fin-act combo. All right, so we can see another get there to port 8080, and then look at that. There's there's some file being pulled down named exploit.jar. Now, we don't know what that is, but the fact that it's named exploit is probably not a good thing, right? But in real life, it wouldn't be named something that obvious. When I was creating the attack, I specifically named my malicious binary that just so that it's easy for teaching. And what I'll do at the end of the series is I will actually take an entire video to do the attack and let you see what the attack looks like from the attacker side. But as we continue to look past the exploit.jar, we can eventually see that, okay, suddenly now, towards the end, there's yet another handshake to port 443 here. So there's a sin-act, and an act to port 443. And again, coming from 131, the victim going to the attacker. So it appears that most of the three-way handshakes, or maybe all of the three-way handshakes, started with the victim going to what we think might be the attacker. And when you start to see that, one thing that should come to mind is it's probably a client-side attack because it was initiated by the victim. Now, how the victim went to that page or went to that server and connected, that's a whole nother conversation. And we'll dig a lot deeper into the traffic in later video sessions to kind of see how it led up to that. But we can clearly see that those three-way handshakes. Now, another thing is if you wanted to see all three-way handshakes, all right, let me show you this filter. And this is a big one. That flag or that filter would look like this. And this is another important one to kind of have, like, hey, I want to see all three-way handshakes. And there's another way that I'm going to show you to get the same kind of result using the statistics part of Wireshark as well. And, if I jack this up the first time, charge it to my, my parents used to say all the time in church, charge it to my head, not my heart. It's because my head and my brain is getting old. So you can see that we have a filter here, and it's basically just, this is a way to pick up on the pattern that's left behind by a three-way handshake. So if I apply this filter, what it does is it just shows us sin-act, act, sin-act, act, sin-act, act. We're just picking up on that pattern. So we're just seeing all the three-way handshakes, right? And we can see this first one here. And then as we continue to go down, you see all the other, three-way handshakes there. As we go through the traffic. And that narrows it down a lot to where you can focus on, I guess you could say what's important, like connections or starting with that. But another quick way to get kind of that view is if you go to statistics and go to conversations, you can see a similar type of view there because it shows you, some source and destination information. And you can also see how many packets were sent at layer 2. But if we go up to layer 4, transport layer, this is where you kind of see, your sessions and ports. It's port 80, port 80, port 80 again. And as you scroll down, you can see 443 in there and 8080. You can see all those conversations. All right. Now, that's another way to just kind of give you a glance. All right. Thanks for watching, and we hope to see you guys again in another video soon. Feel free to comment, share, and, let us know what you think.